Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box News Bites. Today I'm covering vacations and traveling during the pandemic, and by covering them, I don't mean giving reviews on tropical destinations. Instead, I'll be reviewing the hypocrisy of the people who are doing the traveling. I was hoping to keep this video short. Oops. The algorithm god never takes a vacation, so please make that sacrifice of clicking the like and the subscribe buttons. Also, I'm never on vacation because I'm busy making content for my wonderful viewers. Please become a Patreon so I can continue never being on vacation. Twitter, it's a thing. I'm on it. During the pandemic, people have been traveling out of province and out of country. In my opinion, any travel other than for receiving life-saving treatment should be put on hold. And yet story after story is breaking of government employees, elected government members, and people with privilege traveling. The NDP, Liberals, and Conservatives, federally and provincially, have been caught in these scandals. But not all the stories should be treated with the same level of contempt. There are roughly three main categories of travel. The hypocrisy is more nuanced, and I'll get to that after my breakdown of the categories. The first category is travel for reasons that are considered essential under Canada Health Guidelines. Canada allows travel to visit dying loved ones or attending memorials. Nikki Ashton, an NDP MP, traveled out of the country twice to be with her ailing grandmother. The first trip was with the approval of her party. The second trip, she did not inform them ahead of time. Liberal MP Kamal Khara also traveled out of the country without informing the chief government whip for a memorial and to be with grieving relatives. Were they allowed to go if they followed the rules of the Quarantine Act? Yes. Should they have gone? No. My uncle passed away in another province last summer, and like countless other people have had to do, his funeral was live streamed on Facebook. People in Canada have dying loved ones in hospitals and long-term care homes they're not allowed to visit. It's not fair. We should be able to visit dying loved ones and go to funerals, but the pandemic isn't fair. Going to a funeral will risk causing more funerals. My second category is travel for family, non-emergency, work or assets. Two Conservative MPs, Ron Liepert and David Sweet, traveled out of country to deal with property issues or maintenance. David Sweet did admit to staying longer than needed for leisure. Do I believe property management was the main reason for their travel? No. One of the problems with the health guideline is that the use of the word essential is flexible. And when that's the case, people will bend it. Here's the thing about this category. People are advised not to visit family for any reason, even for special occasions, even if they live in the same city. I have family an hour's drive from my place, and yet I haven't been able to see my nibblings. It's a word, look it up. All year. If you have to travel out of the country for work in a non-essential field, too bad. The pandemic isn't fair. Lots of people are losing their jobs and businesses in Canada because of lockdowns and lack of assistance from the government. And if you have the means to have a property in other countries, but not the means to have someone maintain it while you're not there, then maybe you're living above your means. The third category is the worst reason. It's also the most common reason. And it's mostly conservatives, people with wealth, and those with the most privilege doing it. Travel to sunny destinations for vacations. The list of elected government officials and government employees in this category is so long, narrowing it down to a few names is a challenge. Not to mention, this list is constantly growing. So I'll use Dr. Tom Stewart because he is the epitome of privilege, and of all the people who should have known better not to travel, the CEO of a hospital would be it. He went on vacation in December to the Dominican Republic while facilities in his Ontario hospital networks fought COVID outbreaks. His trip was found out and he was fired without cause and is entitled to 24 months of pay, which equals roughly around $1 million. $1 million. Just one moment. $1 million? What? How can this stupid son mother? I can't. Really? Seriously? How? How can this? God damn it. Are you kidding me? $1 million. I'm okay. I am okay. Yeah, okay. Whew. So let's get into the previously mentioned hypocrisy nuances. Nikki Ashton, do I think she should have gone to see her ailing grandmother? No. Do I think she did anything fundamentally wrong? No. Do I think she's a hypocrite? No. Do I think it was the right call for the NDP to strip her of her critic roles? No. Do I think people should be as mad at her as they are with others? No. Here's why. Her travel was for compassionate reasons, and one that is clearly stated as essential. Sure, I think as an elected official, she should be held to a higher standard and shouldn't have gone, which would have demonstrated solidarity with all the people who haven't been able to see ailing loved ones. And she should have got the approval of her party before going the second time. But so long as she followed the Quarantine Act, she had every right to go. I also take into consideration the kind of politician she is. She fights for good-paying jobs, tackling climate change, providing tuition-free post-secondary education, combating unequal distribution of wealth. Basically, she's fighting to improve the lives of all Canadians. I feel she can be forgiven for this transgression, and I feel the NDP has a bad habit of acting too quickly and coming down too hard on its own to appear righteous, instead of taking into consideration individual circumstances. There may be undercurrents to this story I'm not aware of, and if I learn them, I'll change my opinion. Until then, I feel we need more people like Nikki in office. For the next nuances of hypocrisy, Conservative MP Michelle Rempel does an excellent job demonstrating it here.
I didn't get to see my family at Christmas. I miss my husband. He's in Oklahoma. But I knew if I went down to Oklahoma, I knew that I would have vulturous CBC reporters reporting on my whereabouts, saying that I was a bad example to the Canadian public. And I knew I couldn't go. I knew that because I knew that if the Alberta government and my constituents were being asked to sit at home, then I had to sit at home. Because as somebody who is elected to serve the people, and I'm going to be straight up with you, I have permission to share this. My mother-in-law has stage 4 breast cancer. I would really like to see her. I haven't seen her in months. We don't know how much time she has left. And I've been thinking okay, well, when can I potentially go down and see my family? Could it be during the parliamentary recess? And I was thinking about this, I was going to be upfront with people about when I traveled, but I knew when this news came out yesterday that that took any hope for me off the table. So I'll just be selfish and say thanks, Rod. I don't get to see my mother-in-law now because there'll be a witch hunt if I go see my family, even though I'm going to see my mother-in-law and I'm not going to St. Bart's. So yes, a little angry about that, but.
For her and privileged people like her, complaining about justifying themselves, being told what they can't do, and are upset at having to follow the rules, this pandemic has done something to them they never saw coming, holding them to the same standards as everyone else. They're used to making the rules, forcing other people to justify their existence, doing what they want when they want, even if it's things regular Canadians may suffer severe consequences for. At the same time, she whines about the CBC doing their job. Many Indigenous peoples don't have access to clean drinking water, and the government does nothing about it. Folks in the LGBTQ+ community had to fight for the right to marriage equality and are still fighting for equality. Seriously, sexually active gay and bisexual men still aren't allowed to donate blood. Black people must justify their activities every time a cop stops them for, well, living while black. People with disabilities are told they can't have a livable income and must constantly justify why they deserve to exist. The government at least made it easier for them to apply for medical assistance in dying. But since my disability often includes me wanting to die, they tell me no to that as well. Now poor Michelle can't go to Oklahoma because she might be held accountable. Yeah, the pandemic doesn't care who you are, how much money you have, whether or not you have privilege. Millions of Canadians can't go see their loved ones right now. Why? Because anyone can catch COVID. Anyone can have severe symptoms from it. Anyone can have lasting health problems from it. Anyone can die from it. Everyone is equally responsible to do their part and not spread it. And finally, about the people who knowingly snub the health guidelines and travel across borders for vacation, especially if it's by plane. If one person on the plane is infected, everyone on the plane gets infected. Many vacation hotspots are in poorer nations, and they risk causing an outbreak there. These nations' economies will have a harder time coping with an outbreak, and their populations aren't able to access the same quality of care we get here. People will die because they wanted a tan. And the excuses of the mostly conservative government officials are beyond pathetic, like the bending of the word essential to include going on vacation to alleviate stress. If vacations are essential, where's my trip? Oh, right. I don't even get enough money for the essentials I need to live a healthy life or have a decent home. My bad. I forgot. I don't deserve good experiences. Or the amount of mostly conservative government officials claiming it was a dumb mistake or it was stupid of them, like we should somehow be lenient on them for not thinking. I'm sorry. What part of the vacation was the dumb mistake? The checking with the travel agent, the booking of the flight, booking of the hotel room, finding a dog sitter, making sure your mail doesn't pile up on your doorstep, not telling the people you are required to clear it through, driving to the airport, making pre-recorded videos to make it seem like you are home, packing your suitcases. Which part of that exactly was the mistake? So why have I multiple times pointed out it's mostly conservatives doing this? Because if the hypocrisy they emitted was a fossil fuel, the Americans would have invaded us by now. Conservative policies have made people's lives worse. The provinces run by conservative governments are suffering the most during the pandemic. Conservatives have cut back on our health care, gone against science, and ignored mask wearing, are forcing people to go to work sick, then turn around and say we aren't being responsible, doing nothing to support the people who can't work or have lost their jobs while giving hundreds of millions to corporations. Horses in Ontario get $2,500 a month. Yep, $2,500. I get less than half of that to live off. Seriously, are the horses in cahoots with Doug Ford to throw the next horse race in his favor? $2,500. $2,500. Doug cares more about horses than he does with people with disabilities. $2,500. How? 2,500, 2,500. All of this, and conservatives, by and far, are the worst at violating the guidelines set in place to keep everyone safe. People are dead because of what they've done. Their actions speak for themselves, yet so many people don't get it. Conservatives with privilege don't care about you. They only care about their bottom line and feel entitled to do whatever they want. When they say they want what's best for the people, they are lying to you. And while the NDP cracks down on their members for even perceived wrongdoings, conservatives cover for each other. Ford knew about Ontario Finance Minister Rod Phillips' trip to the Caribbean in December and did nothing to stop it. Many of the vacationers caught have said they didn't tell their higher-ups about their trips, which reeks of self-entitlement. But when a big chunk of your office is MIA, it's a little hard to claim no one knew what was going on. Alberta's United Conservative Party, so far, has had the most people caught. If everyone in their government who has gone on vacation was forced to step down, there would be no functioning government left, which is probably why their leaders are doing nothing to punish them. Most of the people who have been caught have resigned from committees or stepped down from assignments. But since they still have a job in government, it is up to us, the voters, to hold them accountable in the next elections and fire them. People shouldn't be allowed to board flights to sunny destinations unless they can prove they are going for something other than vacationing. There are no consequences for non-essential travel, as it is still permitted from Canada. Only if you're caught violating the Quarantine Act will there be any penalties. No one in our government should be leaving their post during a pandemic. Parliament, the legislators, should not be shutting down. Elected officials need to be at work helping the millions of Canadians who are suffering during these unprecedented times. The vaccine rollouts have been a mess, and federal government needs to be doing more to force the provinces to get their act together so we can go back to having a semblance of a normal life. Other countries with far less resources than us have kept the pandemic at bay. There's no excuse for us not to have this under control. Our politicians need to lead by example. How can we expect Canadians not to travel when they are? Our government has failed us at all levels. Working in the government is a privilege we bestow. It is also one we can take away. If they don't work for the people, vote them out. And to all the people about to board a flight because you feel like you are entitled to catch some rays, be sure to check your privilege at the gate. In the comments section below, let me know what consequences you feel would be appropriate for people going on non-essential travel. Don't forget all that button clicking and following stuff I mentioned at the beginning. Links to the stories can be found in the description box below. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.